Today we're going to talk about the use of the VLOOKUP function in Excel. VLOOKUP is a handy function that will look up some value, compare it to an existing table, and return a corresponding value. The first example I'm going to show deals with looking up a numeric grade. I've set up this so far in cell A1, have the words numeric grade, and I'm going to go to cell B1 and type in the grade. And let's just say the student's numeric grade is an 85. What I would like to do in B2 is to be told whether an 85 is an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F. Now I could do this through a series of ifs, but it would be ifs within ifs within ifs within ifs, and it would be quite complicated. Using a VLOOKUP, it'll be very simple. Now below I've given you what our grading scale is. 0 to 59 is a F, 60 to 69 is a D, 70 to 79 is a C, 80 to 89 is a B, and 90 and above is an A. Now the first thing before we can record our VLOOKUP is we have to set up our table properly. The way I have it entered right here is not going to work. Instead, I'm going to here record my VLOOKUP table, and here's what we have to do. We have to record the bottom of each range. So 0, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then we tell it what grade that is. So notice two things. We entered the lower end of each range. In other words, for F, I didn't put 0 through 59, I simply put 0. And our table is in order in ascending value. So we're going from 0 up to 90. Let's go to B2, click our friend FX, and we want the VLOOKUP function. It finds it here. The first thing it says is your VLOOKUP value. What is it you want to look up and compare to this table? I want to look up 85, so I'm going to click in cell B1 and say I want to look at whatever's in cell B1 and compare it to this table. The second part says table array, and that's where it's saying, where's your table? Here is where my table is located, from D5 through E9. The third part's a little bit odd. Column index number says what column of that table contains your answer. I think it's a little bit weird because here's the way it works. If it's in the second column, it would be a 2. If it's in the third column, it would be a 3, and so forth. So I'm going to tell it just 2. Let's tell it OK. And notice it tells me that an 85 is a B. Let's go back and change it and make it a 92. It says that is an A. Let's make it a 67. That is a D. And let's make it a 55, and that is an F. So it's going to look up whatever I have entered into this cell, compare it to this table, and return the corresponding value from this second column here. Notice two important things. When I set up my table, I had to put in the first column the values I need to compare to. They need to be in ascending order, and I list only the bottom of each range. Let's do another example where we can use a VLOOKUP to determine the cost of shipping a package. In cell B1, I'm going to enter the weight of the package. Now down below, you'll see in A5 to B8, I have entered the weight of the package and the shipping cost. So if it's 0 to up to 5 pounds, it's going to be $5.25. 5 to 10 pounds, $7.50. 10 to 15 is $8.75, and 15 and above is going to cost $12 to ship. Now, when I set up my actual VLOOKUP table for the comparison, notice what I did here. I entered the lower amount of each range. I did not enter the 0 to 4.9, I simply entered the 0 and so forth. Let's go to B2, FX, pull up VLOOKUP again. First thing it says, look up value. Well, I want to look up what's in cell B1, the weight. Table array says, where is my VLOOKUP table? Well, right here. Column index number, well, this was the first column of my table. The second column of the table contains my answer, so I'm simply going to enter a 2. Now, if I have a package that weighs 5.5 pounds, you see it cost me $7.50. Let's go back and make it weigh 16 pounds. It says it's going to cost me $12. And if it weighs only 2 pounds, it's going to cost $5.25. Another example of VLOOKUP. Again, we have to tell it what value is it that we're trying to look up. We have to have a table to compare to. It has to be organized in ascending order, smallest to largest. And we also will enter only the bottom level in each range. Let's look at one more example. Here, I want to be able to enter the abbreviation for a state and have Excel tell me what state that is. So in B1, I'll enter the abbreviation. Let's start off entering GA first. Now down here, I've just entered 5 states. I want Excel to automatically tell me what is the name for GA. I can do my VLOOKUP again, FX, VLOOKUP. Lookup value, I want to look up what's in B1. Table array, well, my table is located right here from A4 to B8. And then which column of my table contains the value I'm looking for? Well, this is column 1. I'm looking for column 2 then. Let's tell it OK. And it does a good job. GA is Georgia. TX is Texas. AL is Alabama. I want to show you something a little bit different here. Let's suppose that I type in NA, for example. Well, we don't have a state with an abbreviation of NA. Right now, though, Excel is not recognizing that. So we need to go back and tweak our VLOOKUP just a little bit. Let's go to my FX. And now I want us to go to this bottom part where it says range lookup. Let's read what it tells me. Range lookup is a logical value. To find the closest match in the column, sorted in ascending order, you tell it true. To find an exact match, you tell it false. Now, in our case, we need this to be an exact match. If it does not exactly match something in A4 to A8, that means something is wrong. So we need to tell it to exactly find the value that we have entered. And if it can't find it, it needs to give us an error message. So I'm going to type in false this time. Tell it OK. Notice now, when I had an amount that is not correct, it gives me an error message. Let's do another one. Let's make it GA. It gets Georgia. SC, it gets South Carolina. If I were to enter SA, though, now I get an error message. Had I not put the false part right there when I entered SA, it's going to basically guess at which one it needs to be. So if you need to have an exact match, you need to indicate false at the last part of your VLOOKUP. There's also a function in Excel called horizontal lookup, which is quite similar. However, your table, instead of being arranged vertically, would be arranged horizontally, but it does accomplish the same purpose. And that is the VLOOKUP.